We are starting our journey through the moral paradox. We face a question that connects ethics and everyday choices. Can decisions be totally good or bad, or are they always a mix of both? Let's explore these challenges.
Some might say that what we call moral paradoxes are because our moral ideas are not finished. Choices that look morally unclear might be due to society's rules, not real moral confusion.
Many agree that moral paradoxes come from real conflicts between ethical rules. In simple terms, it's about dealing with situations where values like honesty and kindness clash. The hard part is deciding which value is more important.
In history and philosophy, moral paradoxes have always been there. Old texts like those from Greek thinkers deal with problems such as whether it's okay to lie for a greater good. These talks show the age-old struggle for ethical consistency.
If these moral dilemmas have been around for so long, do they mean our ethical ideas are changing, or that some choices are always hard? Let's talk about the trolley problem. It's a famous moral question about choices and consequences. Imagine a trolley that will hit 5 workers on the tracks. You can move it to another track, but 1 worker is there. What do you do? This makes us think about our moral beliefs.
Some say this problem isn't just about who lives or dies. It shows flaws in how we think about right and wrong. Are our ethics natural or shaped by society?
People usually choose to save the many over the one. This fits with utilitarian ideas, but it's hard to use this thinking because it might clash with personal beliefs.
This problem is like old debates about ethics, such as those from the sophists. They talked about if moral truths are always the same or depend on context.
This leads us to a deeper question. Can dilemmas like this really test our morality, or do they just trap us in ethical problems with no right answer? Let's talk more about the moral paradox. We'll look at the prisoner's dilemma. It's a situation where 2 people must choose to work together or betray each other without talking. The result depends on what they both choose. How does this show the fight between our moral feelings and clear thinking?
The prisoner's dilemma shows something interesting about people. Some say it means our selfish actions come from deep social rules. These rules make us think about personal gain over being morally right. It seems like a puzzle, but shows how we adapt in complex social situations.
This dilemma often shows why rational self-interest is good. People betray because it reduces loss. But studies show that over time, people act more cooperatively. In game theory, working together might not seem best at first, but in long-lasting relationships, it is smart because it leads to better results.
The prisoner's dilemma has always been interesting because it talks about whether humans are selfish or like to cooperate. Philosophers like Rousseau and Hobbes asked if society makes our moral sense worse or better. They think this dilemma isn't just a game, but shows how humans make ethical choices over time.
Does the prisoner's dilemma really show what a moral paradox is, or does it make human relationships and ethical choices too simple? We've looked at different parts of the moral paradox. Now let's talk about the ethics of lying. Can deception be justified? This topic asks if lying can be okay sometimes. Is lying ever really acceptable, and what ethical limits does it challenge?
Some philosophers say lying can be needed in some cases. Think about white lies, small lies to protect someone's feelings. This idea suggests that sometimes we need to balance honesty and kindness.
Most people agree that honesty is very important because lying can break trust, but ethical ideas like utilitarianism might say lying is okay if it brings more good. This shows a more complex way of thinking about right and wrong.
In the past, philosophers like Kant have strongly opposed lying, saying it's always wrong no matter the reason. Others, like Machiavelli, see how power and morality mix, where lying might achieve bigger goals. This debate has been around for a long time, showing our fight with strict ethical rules.
The mix between lying and honesty in ethical talks is complex. Does this chat give us clearer rules, or does it show how complex moral integrity in life is? Let's talk about the doctrine of double effect. It separates what we mean to do from what happens because of our actions. Does this help with tough moral choices, or does it make things more confusing?
The doctrine of double effect can clear up moral problems. It says an action with bad effects might be okay if the main reason is good, like a doctor giving strong pain relief even if it may speed up death. It means intention is more important than unexpected results.
This doctrine is like common ethics, where intentions decide if something is right or wrong. But some say it makes moral responsibility too simple. Looking only at intention can ignore what happens, letting people escape blame for the harm they cause.
The doctrine of double effect comes from old philosophy, especially Thomas Aquinas. It's used to explain actions in both religious and everyday settings. This brings up questions about if intention is enough to judge right or wrong, or if we need to rethink it because it's so old.
As we look more at this principle, is focusing on intentions a way to avoid blame for what happens, or does it show something important about judging actions that we shouldn't look at them alone? We're at the main part of our journey with the moral paradox. Let's start the interactive talk about these problems. Do our past talks make things clearer, or do they show how tricky moral questions can be?
I think moral paradoxes show that we don't fully get morality. Maybe we should see ethics as changing because of culture and personal views.
That's a good point, Guy, but we can still aim for clear moral rules. Paradoxes don't mean we ignore rules, we just improve them. Having core values helps society work, even if solving issues is hard.
Our talk makes me think of Socrates. He believed in learning by asking questions. We don't fully understand morality, and paradoxes can help us think more about ethics, not just confuse us.
But if moral paradoxes are around for so long, should we change what we expect from ethics? Is it living with many views rather than looking for one truth?
But having many moral views could lead to problems. If everyone chooses what's right for them, we might hurt social unity. Maybe we need some flexibility, but keep human rights.
This is like the old fight between relative and absolute truths. Maybe the goal is not to solve paradoxes, but to understand their contexts and see them as part of our different human stories.
So are moral paradoxes about accepting the hard parts of ethics and human change? And does this help us grow in morals?
Accepting that moral confusion is natural could help us grow. Seeing this complexity might teach us empathy and humility, expanding our moral view.
But should we watch out for being too relaxed? Is there a danger in letting paradoxes stay without trying for clearer moral rules?
Paradoxes may not be solved, but they help us think deeper about ethics. In this ongoing talk, maybe we don't find answers but learn to ask better questions.
We've explored the moral paradox, looking at its complexity and effects. As we finish, maybe our journey shows that our strength is in learning from paradoxes, not in trying to quiet them.